All right, let's get this started. So, welcome everybody. Welcome Russell. Thank you for joining us today. Russell Cullingworth has been drawn to stories, acting, and creativity since childhood, always experimenting with new ideas and passionate about sports, drama, art, and music. He's the founder and CEO of ProDio Audio Learning, the world's first formal audio learning company for professionals. A thought leader in imagination-based story style learning. He is the author of Learn to Imagine, an engaging corporate narrative that blends creativity, neuroscience, and learning insights to offer a solution that not only engages but also develops creativity, imagination, and critical thinking. Russell, take it away.
Thanks, Arnold. Just imagine yourself sitting around a campfire and you don't have your phone, you don't have your laptop with you, obviously. And you're sitting around the campfire watching the stars, and the sparks are flying up into the night sky. And people, what do people do around campfires? They tell stories and they connect. They connect emotionally. My wife and I went camping at Penguin Cove near Seashell, and we were disappointed because we didn't have our own campfire at our site, and there was a communal campfire. So we were like, "Ooh, we have to sit with other people," and it turned out to be a really rich experience. As people, the CEO of BC Ferries was there with his kids around the campfire, and we all just introduced ourselves, told stories, and there's that instant connection. So it's what I call the campfire effect is audio verbal storytelling. And if you really think of it, it's the way we've learned since the beginning. It's the way humans have passed on knowledge for thousands of years before we had any technology, was through verbal storytelling and teaching. So I'll tell you a little bit about how we got started and how we discovered this. Started in 2017. Actually, I was doing emotional intelligence live workshops for 8 years. And I was feast or famine. I wasn't really doing great financially. So I decided I wanted to create an online course on emotional intelligence. Back then, it wasn't as like big as it is now, even around 2016. And I did a marketing course through UBC. It was a free MOOC, like marketing course, and I was actually quite frustrated because it wasn't badly done, but it was all online. It was summer here in Vancouver. The sun was shining outside. But you can't take your laptop out into the sun because you can't see the screen. So I just sit inside and watch the sky. And most of the time, I said to my wife, most of the time I could just listen to this guy. I don't need to sit and watch him. But then every now and then he'd switch to some video thing or something, and I'd have to go and find the tab and go back and watch what he was showing me. And I said to her, what if I could just create a course and just people could just listen to it in their car? And so that's where the idea was born of audio courses. But one thing I knew was that if we did audio, it had to be really good. Like people would not tolerate an audio lecture necessarily with one person going on for 2 hours. At that time, we were working with CPABC, so we had to put on a decent amount of time so people could get their CPD credits. So we were looking at 2-hour courses. So you don't want to sit and listen to an audio lecture for 2 hours. So I knew it had to be good. So we started doing storytelling and scenarios. My wife is a professional voice actor, and she also does our sound production. So So she got a voice actor network involved, and we started creating these stories. Hi Olga, thanks for turning on your camera. Appreciate that. And has Christine turned on her camera? Did Christine go? Oh, okay. So
Christine's here and her camera is on.
oh, I don't. Let me just see. I don't like missing people. That's Christina. I don't see Christine, but anyway, let's carry on. So yeah, so we created this audio. It went really well, but it was only recently that through a masterclass that I was on, and I got to ask some questions that I began to realize this really isn't about storytelling only. It's about imagination. So so that's where we've started to build, and I'll show you the neuroscience of what happens with imagination and creativity when you're listening to stories. So I think the best way for you to experience this, we've got a scenario from our realtor safety tips and techniques that we created for Greater Vancouver realtors. So I'm going to play this for you. What I'd like you to do is, if you can, you're welcome to turn off your camera while we listen to this if you want to, because I'd like you to actually just close your eyes and not get visually distracted. Visual distraction is one of the something we've all become addicted to because of television, and everything is visual. I have people tell me they can't do audio. They can't learn in audio because, well, we haven't trained our brains. You have to sort of train your brain to listen to audio. If you start with audiobooks in the beginning, it's easy to get distracted, but the more you do it, the more you train your brain to listen. So what I'd like you to do is try to not look down or close your eyes, listen and imagine the scenario. And then while you're doing that, see if you can identify the learning outcomes that Greater Vancouver Realtors gave us for realtor safety. There's formal learning outcomes in this scenario. So see if you can identify them, but try and also pay attention to what's going on in your mind as you listen. Okay, so let's listen to this.
We're in Module 5 now, and here we'll be discussing tips and techniques for staying safe during open houses. Open houses are a great way to showcase properties to potential buyers, but they can create some anxiety and fear because you won't know who will show up. It's important to take some basic precautions to ensure your personal safety and to protect your client's property. Here is a scenario involving a young realtor doing an open house in a somewhat remote neighborhood. Again, we'd like to provide a warning that the following scenario is a dramatization that may prove uncomfortable or triggering to some listeners. Amelia Barnes is a competent and successful realtor in her late 20s. Today, she's hosting an open house in a quiet and remote suburban neighborhood, and as she drives through the forested roads, she's feeling a bit uneasy, so she calls her husband.
Hi, hun. I'm almost at the house now. I texted you the address. So just remember to keep your phone with you just in case, okay? And just don't forget our new emergency plan. Yes, and our code word, the red binder. Man, I don't know. I'm just feeling nervous today. It's so silly, but I'm sure it'll just be, the same old looky-loos and curious neighbors. It'll be fine.
After stopping a few times to put up her open house signs, she arrives at the house and parks her car off to the side. She can't help but admire the beauty of this home and its well-manicured gardens, ponds, and the gazebo underneath an enormous oak tree.
A bit isolated for me, but wow, I love how quiet and peaceful it is here.
She stops for a moment to listen to the birds and insects and feels calmer as she unlocks the door. She adjusts a vase of flowers in the lobby and begins to make final preparations. She takes the time to do a complete walkthrough inside and outside as a safety check, to turn on the lights, and to familiarize herself with the layout and access of the house. But she still feels a bit uneasy.
Alrighty, just another showing. Stay alert, Amelia.
The first visitors arrive and the day goes well from there. A surprising number of good potential buyers arrive to view the property. Amelia follows her plan to screen each visitor, to have only one group in the house at a time, and have each visitor complete the sign-up sheet. She also makes sure that she always lets visitors walk ahead of her. Towards the end of the day, she walks the last visitors, an excited young couple, out to their car as they ask questions and discuss the house's features.
Okay, bye now. Speak to your broker, and I'll follow up with you tomorrow. Okay, guess that's it then. Oh, wow, that went better than I expected. Time to pack it in, and I'm out of here.
Back inside, she begins her final walkthrough to make sure everything is in place before she locks up. As she heads downstairs, Amelia notices an unidentified man standing in the kitchen. He somehow slipped in unnoticed. The sun is starting to set and the kitchen lights are turned off, so she can't see him very well.
I'm sure I turned on all the lights in the house.
He starts walking toward her, heading towards the stairs.
Hi there. Sorry I didn't see you come in. Can I just get you to come over here and fill out the sign-in sheet, please? It's just right over there at the front door.
He stops at the bottom of the stairs, blocking her path to the front door.
I want you to show me around upstairs.
Amelia's heart races as she realizes the danger she's in, trapped alone with a potentially threatening individual.
I'm sorry, but no, we're actually done for the day and I have to leave to attend to something really urgent. So I need you to leave, please. We can schedule another showing if you're interested for another time.
The man takes a step toward her.
Oh, but I came all this way, and I insist on seeing the house today.
Without hesitation, Amelia runs back up the stairs and thinks about the layout of the house, searching for an escape route. She remembers that the family room upstairs has a deck with an outdoor staircase to the garden. Grateful that she'd taken the time to familiarize herself with the layout and make note of alternate options for leaving the house. Amelia hurriedly enters the family room, closing and locking the door behind her. She reaches for her cell phone and dials emergency services. She hears that the man has followed her upstairs. He tries to open the door to the vacant room, but it's locked.
Open this door!
I've called the police and my husband is on his way, so you had better leave right now.
Amelia breathes a sigh of relief as she hears sirens in the distance. She holds her breath, staying quiet and hidden, and she hears footsteps heading down the stairs. The police arrive, their presence creating a commotion. Amelia cautiously opens the outside door and takes the outside stairs down to the garden.
Are you okay, ma'am? We received a distress call.
No, I actually had a really unsettling encounter with someone inside. So he ran down the stairs when I told him I called the police, but I'm not sure he might actually still be in there.
The police quickly begin searching for the man. When they find him hiding in a closet and handcuff him, relief washes over Amelia. Amelia watches as the police escort the stranger away, grateful for her quick thinking and the support of law enforcement. Given what you've learned so far, in this scenario, what do you think Amelia did well? What techniques helped keep her safe during the open house? What do you think Amelia could have done differently to prevent this situation from getting this far?
Any thoughts? What went on in your mind when you listened to that? As specifically as possible.
I can start. I think it was very powerful. Yeah, I could put myself in the shoes of Amelia. I think it's her name.
Yeah.
And so that was really powerful. I was imagining as the story developed, and I also could tell that there were specific details shared in terms of like some of the steps that a realtor needs to do, like familiarize yourself and know where the exits are, having the signage and all that. So that was really clear. And that how relates to the outcome of the story, that at the end she was able to use those tools or taking those precautions pay out at the end for her safety, right? So yeah, no, I think it was really powerful. That's what I wanted to say.
Anybody else have any reactions,
I thought it was
physical
great.
reactions?
It was
Thanks.
great. Fun on a couple of levels. Like one, it was um, you could see, okay, there's this sort of the teaching points in there, but it was in a fun way that you're thinking about it, and it's easy to remember. But you bring it home in that, okay, now that you've heard it, this is how you apply it. And it wasn't just a lame case, it was oh my gosh, this is pretty intense. Then that builds emotion, and emotion means we're going to remember it more, and we'll remember that story, you'll remember the steps. So bring the phone. She used the phone. She like she had remembered the safety check, like all those things that were outlined in the beginning. You're like, you remember them because of the story. So well done.
Thanks. This course is rated 4.8 out of 5 by the realtors that have taken it. So that there's so it is easy to learn from. It's an easy way to learn, really. Any other thoughts?
Well,
Images.
I don't know if am I off mute?
I can hear you.
Okay. I can see, like, you've done this you've done this in an audio and video or slide deck here, but that is, I think, the beauty of storytelling, how you for some of us or some of the participants who can't maybe do an online version like yourself, that formula can be transferred to anything you do. A presentation could be used when you're teaching someone, is taking that theory and making what I would call a real life example, which that was with the realtors. I thought it was very powerful too. And I just thought, wow, that is a very good way to do it. You've got the outcomes of what they needed to learn, followed by how those outcomes were applied in a real life scenario. So again, very powerful.
Anybody have any mental images of Amelia or the kitchen or the garden?
Absolutely.
My mental image was like, hey, jump at him, throw things at him, fight or fight. That's the only way. I don't even think of like right now, like fight.
What's interesting about this course too is we had 4 realtors as expert guests, and one of them was a retired policewoman who teaches safety for realtors, and she talked a bit about guns in the course, about how useless guns are in these situations, and she said you're not gonna be able to shoot that gun when you're under stress,
really
and
difficult.
So it's quite a powerful course. And the interesting thing was, when we wrote this, so we take the learning outcomes provided to us by GVR, for example, and then we write them, like you heard, into a story. But what was I going to say? Sorry. Yeah, the interesting thing about the neuroscience will show that when you listen to a story like that, you actually picture yourself in the story.
Right. Yeah.
I've listened to the story probably 50 times, and my heart rate increased. Actually, when I listened to it now, while I actually paid attention, my heart rate went up. And so there's this emotional connection with storytelling, and when you're imagining. When you're watching a video, so when you're creating online learning and watching video storytelling, and I mean, we all know, like, video scenarios are really expensive and difficult to create. And either you're distracted by how badly they were made, because you're used to watching Netflix and Prime and these, you can't spend millions of dollars making a video scenario. So either we're distracted by that, or we just become passive consumers. So passive consumerism is something that, when we watch, I talk about, like, when we watch TV shows, and my wife and I will start watching something, and we're like, did we watch this already? Have we started watching this? So we've watched the whole series and we can't even remember the first episode. and the reason is because we're just passive consumers. It's not really sticking with us, as much as, I mean, there's my top three shows, Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad and Ozark, like those three, excellent. But most of the stuff I watch, it's gone by like 2 weeks later. And I don't even know if I watched it. So I don't know about you guys. So this, instead of passive consuming, when you listen to this, your brain can't help but co-create, so become a co-creator with the content. So I think it's one of the most powerful superpowers of imagination is that you're co-creating, which means your brain is cognitively engaged. In my book, I talk a little bit about engagement and extrinsic engagement, which is like, click here, drag this over here, click on this box, or play this little game, and that's sort of external engagement. But imagination is like internal cognitive engagement. Your brain, unless you're really distracted and doing something else, your brain can't help but create the imagery. I have my own whole image of that garden and the house and Amelia, and so do you, but yours is unique to you. No two of us will have the same scene. And so I tell people we guarantee a unique learning experience because you're creating half of the content yourself in your brain. So that's part of the power. So yeah, we won't break out. That was the breakout there. How are we for time? 12:30. Okay, good. We're right on time. So I just want to go over the neuroscience a little bit. Does anybody have any comments or questions before we move on?
I have loads of questions, but they're related to more. I'm an instructional designer, and I actually do story design. So I'm just getting into that full time now, and so I have more questions about how you just arrived at the learning objectives with your clients. So it's more of a technical thing, and that we could maybe take offline another time. But
yeah,
I'm very curious. I'm encouraged to hear that people are engaging in this, and I really like not to take anything away from the video. The audio is technical. Creating the audio, good quality audio, like you did, having real actors, real voice actors is important, but it's a lot less expensive than other mediums.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm going with. Like I'm a designer, not a developer, and I can do development work and I can get a storyline license and do fancy stuff. But ultimately, it's about the design and the story and creating that simplicity that I'm seeing that you have.
Yeah, typically we're building off a previous course that our client has created in the past with PowerPoint slides or long documents. And we just finished one for the realtors called Rules of Cooperation, which is their 50 pages of rules. And I think I've got a demo in my demos in a minute about that. But we created a reality show called Realtor Reality, where we follow Julie, who's an unscrupulous realtor who goes and breaks all the rules. And so it's quite funny. It's quite funny because she does funny things like telling another realtor to go get a life, and we can build in some humor. But the important part is that emotional and cognitive connection, like emotional connection and also cognitive engagement that leads to improved retention and memory and understanding of how to apply the learning outcomes, because often you get a slide with 5 learning outcomes and bullet points, but people don't fully understand how to apply them. So by acting it out in real world conversations, it really helps to understand how to apply them.
I really appreciated Christina's comments because I'm not in an organization anymore and was spoiled with all the tools, Articulate, 360. We had everything. So working on my own, I can't buy those licenses either. So I was thinking exactly what you said, Christina, from an instructional design perspective, how it can possibly transfer into other areas where you're not using an online tool such as Articulate. So I think that's very exciting for you, for sure, if you're designing, but it also is helpful for someone like myself who's a sole proprietor. So I really liked what you said, and I totally agree with you.
Great.
And
Yeah.
what a great way to learn. I mean, we know storytelling is powerful, but I never thought of the two connections, the outcomes first, followed by the story, Russell. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean we work with CPA associations who are some of the strictest associations for verifiable learning that's tied to learning outcomes. And we also have quizzes, and we have skill testing components to make sure they've understood the material, because we have to meet those accreditation standards. And we've reached out, I mean, we've exceeded 100,000 learners because we have 5 courses on LinkedIn Learning that have reached, I think they're probably over 90,000. It was over 80,000 last time I looked, learners with this. So this is a new form of learning. People don't know what it is mostly. And so it's my biggest challenge actually has been to communicate what this is. And our most popular evaluation comment is, this is way better than I expected, which is great, but it's not great when people are wanting to buy it and they like, oh, it's audio, can't be much good. It can't be any good if it's audio. So just a bit of I'll just go through some of the research here. Neuroscience is at Cambridge University Press. This is my favorite article. It only came out in January this year, about how narrative creativity uses storytelling, emphasizing casual and counterfactual thinking to drive innovation and creative problem solving. This isn't just audio. This one's not related specifically to audio storytelling, but just storytelling in general. The neuroscience that I'm showing you, one of the most powerful parts of what's appeared in the neuroscience is how using your imagination regularly exercises your creativity and develops creativity and critical thinking skills. There's some neuroscience about imagination using your whole brain. So they've scanned brains while they're listening and imagining, and it uses your whole brain, which increases the myelination, if you know what that is, and helps your pathways become freeways for information to travel through your brain. And so you can come up with ideas quicker, your synapses travel faster. So I can show you some of that. Oh, Marianne Redden here. I interviewed her for my book, and she's a neuroscientist, and she said, when we imagine something, parts of our brain that are active when we actually experience that thing become active again. So it's like we're actively experiencing it when we listen. If we use our imaginations a lot to practice something, we can actually see growth in the brain regions that are important for executing the actions we imagined. In this way, imagination is a powerful tool. This one, the science leaf, that storytelling used in education supports memory, learning, and connection across generations. It activates multiple brain regions, engaging cognitive and emotional faculties to enhance learning. You can read these. Here's the link up here. I can probably paste it in the chat if you want.
But I did that for you.
Oh, okay. You can go and read all these. They all link to the full article. Here, this one, an article, Applied Cognitive Psychology, the imagination effect increases with increased intrinsic cognitive load. By the way, some of these articles I had to paste into ChatGPT just to try and understand what they were actually saying. So they're quite technical. So imagination instructions are more likely to enhance learning when associated with complex information. So for me, the challenge of taking really complex, we've done an ethics course. We've done 4 ethics courses, but one of them was for the International Federation of Accountants, was very complex ethical dilemmas, but when you put them into real world conversations, becomes very interesting. This one's quite interesting, nature.com. The article's called Neural, Genetic and Cognitive Signatures of Creativity. What I really liked about this one is it says, during creative thinking, the visual processing areas of the brain, areas that process what we see with our eyes, show reduced activity. So when we're doing creative thinking, the areas that use our visual cortex, that use our eyes, show less activity. So for me, that means when we're being creative, we're not using areas of our brain that are connected with our eyes. Because if you think of it, when you're imagining in your mind, you're not looking at visual. You're not really, you're not doing that with your visual eyes. So
yeah, you may even close your eyes.
Yeah, you
Like
can close your eyes.
instinctively, you
Yeah,
may even close your eyes.
yeah, and I mean the power is amazing of what you can do. Like in your imagination, you can pick things up, turn them around, inside out, upside down, change their color. You can do all these things just in your brain. It's pretty incredible. Lee Jerome was also in my book, and she writes how to spark adult imagination. But the key one here is when you don't exercise your imagination, it reduces problem solving, social skills, resilience, job performance, and fulfillment. She's a clinical psychologist out of New York. So there's a whole bunch here. These are more and more articles. I've got a whole ton of them, that are. This cognitive flexibility is another word for creativity. And also divergent thinking is another way to they refer to creativity. So yeah, if you're interested, there's some videos down here. This one, does anybody know Don Morganson? He's a professor of psychology at University of Waterloo. He does a great talk about the lack of imagination in learning. So I recommend that one. So there's some videos you can watch too. So, okay. So let's just quickly go through the 9 forms of audio media that we use. So I'm going to quickly play you the samples. And so you can just listen and see what you think. So when we start, we're like, this is how I start in my mind. I'm like, I read the learning outcomes and the content from what we've been provided. And I'm like, what does this look like in the real world, right? So that's kind of my question. It's like, okay, how does this ethical dilemma or this conflict of interest or change management or diversity, equity, inclusion, what do those conversations look like in the workplace? What do they sound like? So this is an acted scenario.
Joyce was dozing one afternoon when she was woken by the phone ringing. The call came from a man pretending to be her grandson, Andrew.
Hello?
Grandma, it's Andrew.
Andrew? Oh, Andrew, are you okay, dear? You don't sound right.
I'm at the police station. I've been arrested. I can't talk long. I had a few drinks. I think I'm in shock.
Let me call you back on your cell phone.
No, the police have taken it.
There was a scenario just to demonstrate this. That was actually my mother-in-law. We couldn't find an older voice actress, so she did a great job. So that's the learning outcome there was about avoiding scams. It was an ID theft and fraud course. Okay, so stories, and this one's from one of my courses. Imagine this. It's November 1916. World War I, pre-dawn in the Battle of the Somme in France. Captain Charles Hudson of the British 5th Army 8th Corps is hunkered down with his infantry battalion in the waterlogged trenches in the front lines, facing the Germans to the east. The men sit and wait amongst the litter of old tins and torn sandbags, peering occasionally over the edge of the crumbling trench wall to be sure that the enemy is not on the move. The freezing rain is incessant and it dampens the men's spirit and drenches their clothing. But Captain Hudson is obsessed with the idea that a dawn charge would result in panic and failure in the enemy defenses. But this is a view not shared by the men around him. For Captain Hudson, this is his moment for glory. So he walks the lines, yelling at his men to get ready for the charge. At 6 a.m., at the crack of dawn, he will give the command to charge the enemy. He picks up one young soldier and lifts him up to his feet by the scruff of his neck and yells, "Are you ready, son? Because when I say charge, we're going to charge." And he walks up and down the line, giving similar commands to all of his men. This is his moment, and as 6 a.m. arrives, he gives the command, "Charge!" And he goes rushing out over the trench wall. As he runs into no man's land and the enemy's bullets start exploding around him, he turns around, and the last thing he sees is all of his men still hunkered safely in the bunker behind him. The moral of the story is that when, as a leader, you're wanting to yell charge, you best be sure that your team is ready to follow. I didn't know whether to play that whole thing, but I wanted you to get the end of the story. And that's a completely fictional story that just demonstrates, it's a leading through influence course. Analogies. So analogies and metaphors are sort of, it's like something. So this one's another course, one of my courses, but I'll let you listen. Try to imagine you're in a car driving on a highway. Let's say you're going pretty fast, like 60 miles an hour. The problem is that your car is stuck behind a huge truck that's blocking your view of what's ahead. All you can see is a big square box filling your windshield. You can't see what's ahead of the truck because they're too close and this truck is just way too big. What would happen if there's an accident in front of the truck, which suddenly has to slam on brakes? What happens to your car behind the truck? So that one, that analogy is about visioning and being able to see what's down the road, what's far ahead of you instead of what's immediately in front of you. And so that gives you, someone has told me that every time they drive behind a truck now, they think of that story. So narration. Narration's an interesting one because narration's pretty easy. You can plug narration into any AI now and get a very reasonable narration. What we try to do is change the narration from just someone talking to someone hosting. So, for example, this sample is from this was a duty to document course that we did for the Freedom of Information and Privacy Association. And the narrator is actually including the listener as a guest while he goes and visits clients to help them with their duty to document. So he's a consultant. You're the guest going along with him. So.
Oh, hey, hope you haven't been waiting too long. Come on, jump in. We've got a busy day ahead. I'm looking forward to having you with me as I work with these clients. Hopefully, you'll get to learn all about my duty to document work.
Hakeem's expertise is not simply on the organizational need for good records management, but the larger context of how a duty to document is an integral part of access rights, transparency, and trust building.
Okay, so today we're on our way to the first client, the Greater Vancouver Affordable Housing Co-op, which is publicly funded. They own and manage 12 buildings in the city. I think they have about 480 subsidized units, so that's quite a demanding workload for their small team. Hi, can we please get 2 grande vanilla lattes, one with oat milk and one regular?
Okay, 640. Drive ahead.
We're meeting with Siraj, who's the VP of Administration. He's also just completed putting together their privacy management program, which is what a lot of my clients are dealing with these days because it looks like it's probably going to become mandatory.
Okay, so that was Hakeem. And so he walks through. He does a bunch of other things. He goes and visits a class or speaks to a class at a university, and he does all other things with the listener to make it interesting. Street interviews speak for themselves. So I went out and spoke to some young people, and I asked them this question: what is influence?
Probably something that you're like impacted by, and like when you're influenced by something, like you want to achieve better because of that person or that person's actions.
Influence is people find it difficult to describe.
Yeah, and I felt very similarly. Like when you asked me what was influence, it's like this kind of gray area. Like I can get around it, but I can't exactly touch on it.
I think it would be an energy thing.
Okay, can you describe that a bit better?
It's more of like how they're coming across, like energy-wise. Is it something that's affecting me negatively, positively?
That's a little bit of a tough one. I'd say, someone who influences, I guess, someone who changes the way you think.
So that one I went to like SFU, I went to Starbucks and I approached people. And, what I like about it is the messiness of the sound, because when you got coffee shop sounds, and it just makes it more interesting. It doesn't have to be in a studio or on like a telephone necessarily. Expert interviews, we've had some great experts on some of our courses, Marshall Goldsmith and Mark Goulston, if you know them. So expert interviews, what we do is, podcasts have expert interviews, but they long form. What we do is we cut down the expert to as short as possible to meet the learning outcome. So when they're speaking to the specific learning outcome, we just have a minute or two of them speaking.
For this module, we are going to hear from Sam Brad. He's an expert in graphic recording. I started by asking Sam what he thinks change management is.
To me, what it is it's like a big bucket that helps people understand that we're always going through change, and that sometimes there are steps that help us see where we're at. But that change is not universal, but there are many things that are similar when we are going through it.
So that's a change management course by Hilary Curry. If anybody knows Hilary Curry, she did an excellent change management. She actually interviewed 13 experts from around the world. They were in Norway and UK and Australia and Canada. So it was a very interesting course. Pop quizzes. These we do in a fun way. I'll let you listen.
Hi, and welcome to Myths and Disinformation and Professional Skepticism. I'm Brian Friedrich.
And I'm Laura Friedrich.
So let's kick things off with a test.
And no, this isn't the one that you have to pass to get your certificate. This one's just for fun and bragging rights.
Okay, so we want to test your ability to distinguish fact from fiction. We've got a series of 4 quick statements for you to make a decision on. Ready? Here we go with the first one.
Woolly mammoths still walked the earth when the pyramids were being built in Egypt.
So, fact or fiction? Well, this one's true. Research on mammoth bones and tusks on Wrangel Island in Russia were carbon dated to about 3,700 years ago, whereas the Great Pyramid of Giza was completed about 4,500 years ago.
So that's kind of a fun way to do pop quizzes. And I don't know if did anybody picture a woolly mammoth in your brain? If you paid attention, you might have actually realized when someone says woolly mammoth, that picture actually appears in your mind. So it's quite fascinating. So media clips, we use very limited media clips, and there is an acceptable use under fair use policy, as long as it's not, there's 6 criteria that you have to meet. So you have to be very careful when using media clips from YouTube or anywhere else. But I'll just give you an example.
Welcome to Virgin Atlantic. Please take a moment to familiarize yourself with our safety features.
An exceptional company is the one that gets all the little details right. And the people out on the front line, they know when things are not going right, and they know when things need to be improved. And if you listen to them, you can soon improve all those niggly things, which turns an average company into an exceptional company.
Richard Branson. So we didn't interview him, but that was a media clip that we found of his. And if you want to use any media clips in your content, you got to look up fair use policy and meet the 6 criteria. The big one is education. If it's for educational purposes, that's a very big part of the one of the criteria. So, and then finally we have music, sound effects and music, which can really elevate a story. I wanted to say earlier when I wrote that open house scenario, the script was one thing, and then we add the voice actors and they elevate it just with their. We've tried 11 Labs AI voices. To be honest, we've had to redo stuff completely because when AI fails to get it right, it breaks the illusion, and then you've lost the listener completely. So most of the time we just ditch it, unless it's maybe a one-liner. We'll squeeze in manage to get AI to do a one-line thing instead of hiring someone, because voice actors have a minimum charge. So for one-liners, we might do it, but like I've done whole demos and we've like, no, that's not good enough. It's not going to, because like it's that uncanny valley that happens with your ears as well as with your eyes, is where you just can't accept that it's real. So then you lost. So music and sound effects.
But that's not all. Things take an unexpected turn.
Hi, Julie. This is Anne. Bad news, I'm afraid. I have to withdraw my offer. Just learned about a big special assessment coming up in the strata, which I didn't know anything about. It's too big for me to take on top of buying the place. So I want out. Really sorry about this, but I don't have much choice.
Well, I wrote the offer without subjects, which means it's probably binding.
What? No. I need you to get me out of this deal. No one told me anything about this assessment. You need to get me out of this. I can't afford it. Please ask the sellers. Beg them if you have to. I just can't.
Okay, don't worry. We might get lucky. There was another offer. Let me call the seller and see what I can do.
Alan speaking.
Hi, Alan, it's Julie. From the house near the university that was sold.
Yeah, so the sound effects and the music especially. I mean, they use it in movies all the time. So those are the 9 forms of audio media that we use. Does anybody have any questions or want to chat about anything? Welcome, Anthony. I didn't see you come in, but nice to see you here.
Not necessarily about the 9 forms of audio media, but I was just wondering like how that it can maybe challenging this kind of learning for folks that have aphantasia. So there is like a 2-4% of folks who may not be able to actually picture stories and stuff in their brains, right? So I was just curious if you have encountered anything like that yet?
No, not yet. I mean, hearing impaired is another one that's, I mean, for visually impaired people, this is great. It actually levels the playing field for visual accessibility because they're not getting a secondhand kind of version of it. So in some ways it's really great for removing visual accessibility barriers. But in terms of any other, someone who's having struggles, we do have transcripts that they can read through like a book, or so we transcribe the whole course, and but we haven't really had a lot of. I guess hearing impaired people may not choose an audio course, but so we haven't had anybody choose it, obviously, because so yeah, we haven't. What was the condition you mentioned?
Aphantasia. It's and I know this because I do have a friend, and is when so if I ask you to close your eyes and picture an apple, most of us are able to see the apple in our brains.
I just did.
So that you can see it, like if it's what the color, the texture, if it's shiny, not. For someone with aphantasia, depending on the where they are in the spectrum, they may not be able at all to picture something, and even it's really hard for them to read as well, because the same thing happens. So if they are reading
Yeah.
fiction, they're
Yeah.
having a hard time just to imagine what's going on. Mhm.
Yeah. I haven't come across anyone in 8 years with that, but I mean, sometimes you just don't know, right? So, and I mean, I do get people who tell me they don't have an imagination and like they can't do audio, but like I said, I think it's a bit of a muscle that you have to exercise, and it is like taking your brain to the gym. When you listen to a full 2-hour audio course or a 18-hour audio book, my daughter likes 30-hour audiobooks because you get good value for money. So if you've ever listened to Game of Thrones on audiobook, it's kind of interesting, except the narrator is not very good. But and he's kind of this old guy, and he tries to act out like Daenerys Stormborn, but she just sounds like an old woman when he tries to make her voice. So anyway, but interesting experience anyway.
But
Anybody?
emotions are evoked not necessarily by imagining what someone looks like. It's more about what the story is telling you. So
Yeah.
in your realtor one, it's like I didn't even have time to think about what she looked like or what the guy looked like. It was what was being said.
Yeah.
And that's not require any imagination to imagine what it would be like to be put in that situation.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, somebody with a condition that can imagine what something looks like, they can still have emotions.
And maybe
They
place
still have
himself in
emotions,
the
I
story,
hope.
maybe. Yeah. Even, yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing is so my book, Learn to Imagine, we're turning it into an audio book. And I've got such strong mental images of my characters and what they look like and sound like that we're struggling to find voice actors who can actually carry their part, because I have very specific ideas. There's 4 main characters, and I'm really like, oh no, that doesn't fit. And we listen to another one that doesn't quite fit, because I've got this like very specific image. And so does my wife, who's the producer. So she's doing the sound. So she has her own idea, and we've got to try and even just the two of us figure out what we're actually looking for. So it's actually quite powerful. But I encourage you to take your brain to the gym. It is the neuroscience shows the great benefits for actually doing this. And, so what I was going to do with this breakout, and I know there's not a lot of us, so I was going to give you a challenge to try and write a short scenario. This is psychological safety in the workplace. Learning outcomes. There's 3 learning outcomes there. And so I think we might, what's the time? Oh, it's 1:05. So we won't do this, but I encourage you to maybe take a screenshot of this and take these 3. These are really easy learning outcomes to write scenarios for, as far as I'm concerned. For example, practice giving and receiving feedback in ways that build trust and openness. You could easily write that into a meeting, in a meeting room, and what was said. And, I think even with psychological safety, you could even do before and after. So you can do the really bad way to do it and the really good way, ideal way to handle it. So yeah, we won't do the breakout because of time, but yeah, just for your own practice is to take something and write it. I will say that when I wrote my book, writing it as a long story was far more enjoyable than trying to write an academic style paper, like book, like formal. I'm not a very formal language person. I try and make things as simple as possible. It's easy to make things complicated. It's hard to make complicated things simple. And so I try and make it as simple as possible. But yeah, it's great fun actually writing stories. I'm finding a lot of enjoyment. So I think we'll leave it there. You can find out more about my company, ProDio Audio Learning Inc. And connect with me on LinkedIn if you want. I'd love to connect.
Wonderful.
And I'll probably be offering more of these in future, which I'll post on LinkedIn, like through my own company. So feel free to follow me if you want to attend any different ones. We might do a more how-to workshop of planning a sexual course. So yeah, any questions before we go?
Thank you.